Hey everyone, this is Nick, and all my videos this month have been written by AI. Hey, what do you mean that's why the quality dropped so much? I was joking, I write my own crap, thank you very much. Anyway, this week we have the Linux Foundation setting up the basis to build an open source metaverse alternative to Zuck's vision. We have Getty Images suing the makers of Stable Diffusion in the hopes of setting a precedent on how AI is regulated, and we have the first beta of KDE 5.27, which will also be the last version of KDE 5. Fortunately though, this won't be the last segue to today's sponsor. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, and if by any chance by now you haven't heard about Squarespace yet, just know that they're your all-in-one solution to handle your online presence. Now, while they'll let you create a simple website very easily and graphically by just choosing a template among a lot of professional-looking ones, they also have a ton of features around this website. The ones that really spoke to me personally as someone who wants to upgrade their little blog into a full-on website is the members area, which I could use to give my patrons and YouTube members access to all the exclusive content I make for them. And there's also the shop, the online shop. In just a few clicks, you can set up your own merch shop. You still have to create and ship the merch yourself, but the front end is extremely easy to make. And on top of that, they can help you design your logo, they can help you book your own domain name, and a lot more. They're basically your one-stop shop to do everything related to your own website, and you don't need any technical knowledge at all. So, if you need a new website, head over to squarespace.com/TheLinuxExperiment, or just click the link in the description, and you'll get 10% off your first purchase for a website or domain name. If you thought the metaverse was stupid, well, it looks like the Linux Foundation disagrees, because they're launching the Open Metaverse Foundation, a new initiative to try and get various actors working on open source standards and open source software for a vendor-neutral metaverse. They already have a few members, none of which I have ever heard of, but I'm not an expert on that domain. They organize the foundation into interest groups for users, transactions, digital assets, artificial intelligence, security and privacy, and more, and each of these groups has the task of discussing the topics, onboarding contributors, and generally just advance on the matter at hand, since it's very early days and they don't have any code yet to show for it. They also have a dedicated website up and running with a few articles, including one that says that they intend to use the Open 3D engine, which is another project hosted by a foundation created by the Linux Foundation. The Open 3D engine would be used as the base for that interoperable metaverse. All contributions are licensed under the Apache 2.0 and MIT licenses, apparently, which would let anyone use, modify, extend, and distribute the source code without any commercial obligations apart from attribution. These are very permissive licenses, and they mean that commercial entities might be interested in the project because they won't have to contribute every single change they make under an open license. Personally, I am not interested in the metaverse at all because it looks like a solution in search of a problem. It's basically doing the same things that we can already do pretty well, but worse and less comfortable. But if we're gonna have to have a metaverse, I would rather it be open source and Linux driven than something that Zuckerberg dreamt of. Although if the Linux Foundation could wait until Meta kills itself trying to develop Second Life with legless avatars, that would also be pretty cool. Getty Images is now suing Stability AI, the makers of Stable Diffusion, for scraping its content to train its AI. Getty Images shared a press statement stating that they believe Stable Diffusion unlawfully copied and processed millions of images protected by copyright, obviously to train its machine learning algorithm. The company has started legal proceedings in England by sending Stability AI a letter before action, which is basically just a letter of intent to tell someone that you're suing them. Basically what they say is that Stable Diffusion has used their property without asking, without consent, to build a commercial product for their own personal benefit, and they don't think this use is covered by fair use in the US or by its UK equivalent called fair dealing. They say Stability AI never reached out to them to see if they could use any images, and they also say that the current landscape regarding AI is like what existed at the beginning of digital music, where services like Napster offered music to people without any regard for the rights to distribute these files. And Getty Images think that we need a clearer framework for intellectual property rights around AI. They're apparently not even seeking financial damages or looking to stop the development of AI tools. They just want to set a legal precedent so that AI tools have to license content they use to train their models. And I can't really argue with that myself. I don't think that the legal framework that exists today around copyright, around attribution, and the various fair use cases applies to what AI does. And I think we at least need some rulings to know if, yes, the current copyright framework works and everything goes, or if it doesn't work for AI, and then we need to have the rules set in place so that content cannot be used against anyone's will. KDE Plasma 5.27 beta is now available for people who want to give it some test time. You can already install it using the unstable version of KDE Neon, or with Docker images, or with packages from your distro if they package betas. Or you can just compile the code yourself if you feel like it or if you like Gentoo. The major improvements that need to be tested are the new Plasma Welcome app, which is basically just a first run tour explaining what Plasma is, letting you connect online accounts, or telling you how to get help. Of course, it can be skipped if you don't need it. Flatpak support has been improved, finally complete with permissions, letting you grant or revoke access to any Flatpak app to your file system, your home folder, sound, printers, Bluetooth, everything. Multi-monitor support has also been completely refactored and should be way less buggy, although they said that they didn't fix every single multi-monitor related bug. And you will also get more fine-grained control on how to handle setups with 3 or more monitors. And finally, there's also the new Kwin tiling system that will give tiling window manager features to Plasma out of the box by creating layouts and placing windows in the spaces you defined for them using the mouse or the keyboard. All in all, this is shaping up to be an excellent release that I will definitely make a video about in February when it's stated to launch. I think it's on the 14th. And it's also going to be the last release of the KDE Plasma 5 series, because they already branched that series into KDE Plasma 6. So the next release will be KDE 6, but it's probably not coming out in 4 months. It's going to be longer than that. There are some concerning developments in India, as the government proposed that social media firms rely on fact-checking solutions that are done by government agencies. They proposed that the Press Bureau of India and its related agencies become the reference for what is misinformation or disinformation online, so that social networks can have a common reference on what is true or not. This proposal is just a draft for now, and it's part of an amendment to India's IT rules, and it accompanies laws that would put social media firms and gaming companies in charge of ensuring that any content they display isn't patently false or untrue or misleading in nature, whether the company created that content or their users did. Except that what is true and what isn't would be determined by a government agency and not an independent source. And that agency, the Press Bureau of India, has already been found to have misleading fact checks in the past. Anything that wouldn't be deemed true could be taken down. It's not just a matter of labeling content with a small banner. Now, various foundations and industry groups, including ones that represent the big tech companies we're all used to, are opposed to that proposal, labeling it as absolutist and regressive. And look, whether you're a proponent of absolute free speech where even misinformation goes and users have to decide by themselves, or you're for a little bit more moderation to curtail what is patently false, I think we can all agree that no government should have the power to decide what is true and what isn't, because even the most benevolent government that would exist today could someday turn into something else, and with that kind of framework, it's very good grounds for pure censorship. Remember the opt-in telemetry GNOME developers offered to users? Well, there are some answers now, with more than 2,500 people uploading their data to the GNOME servers. Of course, since all of it was opt-in and recruitment happened on GNOME's media channels, they have a subset of GNOME users that are confident in installing a command line tool and that already like GNOME, probably. So it's not fully representative of GNOME users. It's seen in the OS usage, with Fedora representing 54% of responses. The good old ThinkPad seems to still be the device of choice for people running Linux, with 23% of respondents using a device from Lenovo. As per workspaces, most people use the default, with workspaces being only displayed on the primary display for 82% of respondents, and 89% of them using dynamic workspaces instead of a fixed number, which again is the default setting. A small majority of people did make use of the online accounts, with Google being the biggest, Nextcloud second, and Microsoft third. Over 90% of systems had Flatpak installed, with 84% of all systems using FlatHub. The default browser was mostly Firefox at 73% and Chrome second at 11%. Shell extensions were used by 84% of users, most of them having from 1 to 5 manually installed extensions. No surprise here, app indicator support is the biggest one, with JS Connect, user themes, and Dash2Dock or Dash2Panel extensions being the most popular. So, with this kind of data, if the GNOME developers don't seriously reconsider adding notification tray icons to the default GNOME version, then yes, you'll be able to say that they do not listen to their users. Because if the most GNOME diehards that are willing to install a telemetry tool and send their data that are using Fedora on ThinkPads, if they all install the app indicator extension, then it should probably be part of the default setup. Speaking of GNOME, developers this week have been working on redesigning the sound panel, with sounds levels per app getting their own dedicated window, and also using bigger icons and a new volume level indicator so you can see which app is making noise. Various apps also received updates like Gafor, the UML modeling tool, getting Git merge conflict support, CSS autocomplete for style sheets, and various cross-platform fixes for Windows and macOS. Blackbox, a new terminal app, got customizable keyboard shortcuts, background transparency, and fixed scrolling on touchpads and touchscreens. rNote, the hand-drawn note-taking tool, now supports tabs thanks to libadwaita, and it also gained a color picker and floating toolbars. Money, the personal finance manager, has been renamed Denaro, which means the same thing but in Italian, and got a new account setting dialog with support for custom currencies, an export to PDF feature, and documentation available through the help tool of GNOME. On top of that, Login Manager Settings, the tool that does what its name says, got a bug fix update, and Flare, the Signal GTK client, got background notifications. Definitely useful for a messaging client. You kinda want them to be able to tell you when you received something, even if the app isn't open. And in terms of gaming news, we have Ayaneo, the company making handheld PCs for gaming, announcing that their own Linux-based operating system, inventively called AyaneoOS, will be released this year. They announced it on Twitter with a few screenshots, but it's hard to judge from them how this thing will work. The company has recently been relatively successful launching the Ayaneo 2 with a bit more than $3 million collected to fund that campaign. And the reasoning for developing their own OS is basically that Windows on handhelds and small screens suck. And you can't argue with that. Windows has its use case, but it's definitely not for a small appliance dedicated to one task only. The interface isn't designed for a gaming hub, the performance and the background resource usage is designed for an all-purpose OS, whether, as with Linux, you can completely tailor it to do exactly what you want and nothing else, which is great. And also, I think AyaneoOS might, in the end, be more interesting to build your own console than SteamOS. Because SteamOS is designed to just play Steam games. You can add with workarounds games from other stores, but they'll never add an Epic Games login or a GOG login. AyaneoOS might do it, so you will have a way better, more integrated experience. Although, whether they will share the sources and let people install that OS on their own devices, we don't know yet. And finally, there it is, Stadia is now officially dead. It shuttered on Wednesday, about 3 years after it started. And it was a clean shutdown, with Google refunding every customer for their purchases and making sure the controller can work with regular computers and not just with Stadia, so it's not just a paperweight. It looks like Stadia was a pretty promising technological achievement. People who were using it really liked it. But the problem was more on the business side, with Google wanting people to pay full price for the games on top of an optional subscription, instead of offering a monthly fee to access a catalog, like what competitors are doing, including Game Pass. Google never stood a chance in that arena. Basically, buying one game full price on Stadia would have bought you 5 months of Xbox Game Pass on xCloud, with way more games to choose from and comparable quality and performance. Stadia might have looked a little bit better, might have been just a tiny bit more responsive, but for most people, the value proposition just wasn't there. Quantity beat quality this time, it seems. Unlike this segue to today's sponsor, which marries quantity and quality. Tuxedo is a company based in Germany, and they make laptops and desktops that ship with Linux out of the box, and they ship it worldwide. And the reason why you would want that instead of buying any old Windows computer and slapping Linux on it is that basically with Tuxedo you know that it's compatible with Linux because the hardware has been picked to run Linux. And they have a big range of devices that should cover every price point and every need, from affordable laptops to high-end gaming devices, whether they're towers or ultrabooks or just monster gaming PCs. You can get it, or workstations if you like doing work instead of gaming, they also have that. And all devices are customizable, you can mostly open them all up and change the RAM, the SSD, you have multiple configurations available, multiple price points for each devices, you can have your own custom keyboard layout laser etched on the keys, your own custom logo laser etched on the lid of your laptop. It's very, very powerful. So if you need a new Linux device, check out the link in the description below and get yourself something from Tuxedo. So, thanks everyone for watching the video, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't hesitate to like, to subscribe, to turn on notifications, to write a comment, and if you didn't like the video, well, there's always that dislike button, and you can also tell me why in the comments below. Also, don't forget, these news videos are now also in podcast form. You can find the link in the description below. I tackle more topics, and also I go more in depth on each topic. It's about an hour long, it's free of ads, free of sponsors. You can just support it if you want by using the links in the description below. Patreon, YouTube memberships, you get exclusive benefits, you know the drill. So, thanks for watching the video, I hope you enjoyed it, and I guess you'll see me in the next one. Bye!